Hello, good day, and welcome to Wood Coach Creative. This is Interview with Authors. My name is Shelley-Ann Edwards-Barran, and I'm an editor and creative writing specialist. With me, I have my co-host, Keeron Isaac, and a wonderful author that we're interviewing today. I'm really looking forward to this one. So before we get into it, let me just tell you a little bit about myself and Wood Coach Creative, and then I'll allow Keeron to share about his writing, and then we would get into the interview. So I am a creative writing specialist, and my main focus is really making writing accessible to everyone. So I work with children, I work with authors, I work with those who are at university level, really helping them express themselves more effectively with writing. And with authors in particular, we have co-writing sessions. If you want to join us just for some writing accountability, I do editing. If you have a manuscript that you need some support with, and I do author coaching so that if you are stuck anywhere and you need a little help, then I can guide you through that as well. So feel free to reach out, and all the contacts would be there at the end of the video so that you would be able to, get your writing done and get published in Trinidad and Tobago. That's the new trend that we're focusing on because we realize that there's some difficulty there and we're here to help. So Kieran, tell us a little bit about yourself and your writing.
Hi, all right. So my name is Keeron Isaac. I'm a poet and author. Of course, I know Shelley-Ann, she's my editor, and now we're creative partners, business colleagues, friends. So I always love to do projects together. I'm pretty excited to do this one, our author interview series, something I'm really passionate about. And we have a very special guest today. So tell our guest, we hope you're doing well, and please introduce yourself for everyone.
So, hi everyone. I am Miranda Dookran. I'm a local author. I actually published two books. My first book is entitled Breeze of Hope, and it's a poetry collection that takes the readers on a journey of discovering love, experiencing loss, and rebuilding again. And then I went on to write a children's book entitled Bobby and the Beehive. And that also is a very wonderful book. Children are exposed to the benefits of using honey, and of course, the lyrics to a beautiful honey song. I'm also a counselor by profession. I work with clients who have experienced severe trauma. It's a very stressful job. So I try to incorporate my writing into my job as well. And of course, well, I absolutely love writing and it's a pleasure to be here.
Nice, nice, wonderful. So I love that you mentioned your job as your writing. We'll get into more about that dichotomy later. But first of
Mhm.
all, in your bio, you mentioned something really interesting that one of your earliest accomplishments was winning a radio competition for, and I quote, a heart-wrenching story. Can you tell us about this heart-wrenching story and why was it so integral in your writing, Trish?
So the reason why I say heart wrenching is actually was my story. So it's a real, like, true story
Right.
that I
True
happened to share.
emotions.
With it was a competition entitled The Worst
Right.
Valentine Story. And I shared this story, which was very heart wrenching. And lo and behold, I won the first prize. And it was an absolute
Wow.
shock when I got that phone call from Hot 93, and they called me in for an interview, and they gave me all these prizes, and it was like a huge shock. And I think then and there I was like, my God, my writing could actually take me places, and
Right.
because I was just writing for fun, right? And
Yeah.
being in that interview and sharing my story, it gave me an opportunity to share my story, to be authentic, and it gave me a level of confidence in my writing.
So prior to this, you're saying that you had never really considered being published and all these things?
No, I never considered being published because going to university, pursuing a degree in psychology and HR, just seeing writing as just a thing just to do on the side, just for fun, because I always love writing, jotting out little poems and stuff. But actually winning that prize told me something. Hey, Miranda, you have potential.
Yeah, and I really love that you said it was just an authentic story because there's this quote that I found and I use it a lot, and it says, through radical transparency, we breed community. And I love that you just wrote something near to your heart. And I think that's really powerful to start into it for like future authors and writers to know that when you're writing, you just have to like, because I think people overthink like how to
Yes.
write and what to write about. And you just wrote about something authentic to you and look like what coalesced from that. I think that is really special, and I feel like that's really important and a great way to start off the interview as well. Like that's the first tidbit of advice right there off the bat. You
Okay.
know?
Yes.
Yeah. So okay, so what sparked your interest to actually want to publish? Because that's a big jump from writing and winning the competition to now wanting to put your work out there. So what started that?
Okay. So to be honest, back in 2004, I met this old gentleman. First time I'm meeting this gentleman, he used to pray a lot. He had a gift. And he looked at me one day and he said to me, Miranda, you're going to be writing 2 books. And I laughed
Okay.
because
Wow.
then and there I was like, okay, I enjoy writing, but I don't see myself publishing though. Fast track
Right.
now to 2018. I met well, he was a deacon at the time. He's now a priest in the church. He's
Right.
actually stationed in Puerto Rico now. He's a writer. He wrote about 14 books. And I shared
Okay.
with him, I said,
Wow.
I always enjoy writing. I have all these poems but I just don't know how to go about the process. And then he was like, so what are you waiting on? And then he put me onto his graphic artist in Uganda. Then I said, look, I
Wow.
have to get an editor. So what had happened the year before, I had joined this poetry group called Poetry and Prose. So
Right.
I had approached the founder, Ms. Tusha Mahabi. I said, are you willing to help me put together this book, at least to edit the poems and that kind of thing? And she said, sure. And we started meeting frequently to go through the editing process. And then I remember just kind of still feeling anxious about publishing. And then Father Stephen Kakandi, he came and he said, Miranda, if you keep looking for that perfect moment, you will just never release this book. After
Wow.
8.5 months, I said, yes, time to publish. And that was it. The book was published in December 2018. And since then, it's
Wow.
been one hell of a ride.
Yeah, I could just
I can
imagine.
imagine.
You said two things there that I want to touch on. One is that writing is not a solo sport. It's not something
Mhm.
that, you write yourself, but
Exactly.
you mentioned that you're part of a writing community
Mhm.
and you reached out for assistance to two different people. So it's
Mhm.
not that you write and you do the publishing on your own. You really meant to, you can get so much support. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing these interviews, to share with authors, hey, you don't have to think that you need to do it alone. Not everything costs, a ton of money.
Exactly.
There are ways that you can go through and get published, get your information out there. The other thing that you mentioned is the editing process, that you didn't just think, okay, so I've written it, everybody's saying that my writing is good, I'm just going to
Mhm.
publish. But you went through the refinement of it, so that there's always room for, improvement. But then there's that full stop, which is there's a time frame, we improve as much as we can.
Yes.
It's never going to be perfect, because even now, I'm certain if when you go back,
Mhm.
you think ever so often, I should have put this one here, and
Mhm.
I could have
Mhm.
moved this one
True.
around. You'll always think that as a writer. And
Mhm.
certainly as an editor, I'm like, that's like the number one thing that goes through my mind when I'm writing, is like, I always edit and I have to pause and breathe and say, listen, you're not an editor right now. You are a
Mhm.
writer. Just write and get it done.
Mhm.
So
True.
there's so much happening and so much coming at you. But the way you get through that is through community,
Mhm.
and
Correct.
through reaching out, and through recognizing that writing is a process, and you go through the process, and when the process is ended, you publish. I really, really love that. And I'm hoping that all the new authors and the emerging authors who are listening, they're hearing that it's possible. And what you need is a
Mhm.
community. Just reach out. There's several communities that Poetry and Prose is one of them. Wood Coach Creative is building a community. Keeron and I are building a community here as well. So there are options and there are opportunities. Absolutely. So wonderful that you mentioned that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, and fun fact, poetry and prose group is how Miranda and I connected. That's a really wonderful group. So that was a good point to mention, and as well, Shelley-Ann already mentioned that we have our own group. So definitely, if anyone listening, definitely have that community support around you. Is really, really inspiring.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have two collections, right? You have a poetry collection as well as a children's book. So if you could walk me through the writing process, the differences for the poetry collection versus the children's collection, and do you prefer one over the other? Do you love them equally?
I think poetry has always been my first love. I just love to write poetry. In fact, I have a whole collection right now that I don't know. I'm thinking if I should publish it or not. So it's like, yeah,
The answer
poetry
is
is
yes.
so much. Um, yeah, so my poetry has always been my first love. Now, that's the next thing too. At the time when I published Breeze of Hope, I did not have anywhere in my radar about publishing a children's book. While discussing the pieces with my editor, there was a piece called Bob Daddy's Beehive. And my editor said, well, wait, this is not a poem, Miranda. This could actually be a children's book. And I said, you think so? She said, yeah, he died. Well, he's since passed. And she said, why don't you make it into a children's story? And during the pandemic, that was when I decided to publish the children's book, right? And
Oh,
yeah, so and so that's what I'm saying. It wasn't planned. It was like, hey, again, going back to another part of the community and saying, hey, why don't you try this? And again, um, both of them, there's a difference because with poetry, it's more words, whereas with children's writing, it's more graphic. And making sure that your language is simple enough for that child to understand. And here I have two different audiences now. So one is more mature, which is the poetry collection, and then the children's book. It's for children, so the language must be simpler. And of course, the language must complement the graphical content. So
definitely.
again, what I did, I brought in my 5-year-old niece at the time and I say, hey, I need you to kind of provide some feedback on this. Yes, again, I consulted another writer. This time a writer from Dominica, Mr. Harry C, was also instrumental in helping me with the editing. And my niece was able to provide some feedback. Hey, this can work. Actually, this might look
Oh,
better. And
That's like
so
the youngest beta reader in history, right?
yes, yeah, and I actually acknowledge any book because her feedback was so phenomenal. So here am I having a child, present to me, Auntie, this could work, this cannot work. I think you should put more color here. I think you should do this. And so I also used my actual niece to help me bring that story to life. And again, I never regretted writing that children's book. That book is doing well, right? Children actually love the book, especially the honey song. And again, so, and of course I have to do research. I must do research in when I'm doing writing poetry as well as writing children's book, because you have to know what works and what will not work.
true,
Mm. I
true.
love the fact that your community is international. I heard, was it Ghana or Uganda? And now I'm hearing, different countries. So these contacts, so you're getting a sort of international, um, I guess, review of
Yes,
what can work. And this is something that I feel like our authors in Trinidad and Tobago really need to tap into. There are international communities that you can join as well, and writers welcome to get that understanding of how things are done out there. We say it,
yes,
things are
yes.
done out there versus in here kind of thing. But I feel like it expands the thinking a whole lot, because that's what, like, right now I am in connection with people from Canada, the US, the UK, all around the world, South Africa. You do get a really much broader understanding of life in general, but then people.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's, you mentioned audience, which again is something that I mean, I'm happy dancing here, because you're just touching on all the really, really important things, because this is part of the writing process. Do you
yes,
understand
it
your
is.
audience? Do you know who you're writing to
Mhm.
and what they would appreciate, what they need? Yes, you have something to give them, but how will they receive it? That is absolutely important. And if you don't mind, can you tell us just a little bit about that recognizing the audience, and what was that like for you? Because you no, we know there's that difference between the poetry and the children's book. But the fact that you mentioned audience and the research and what works, this means that it was a deliberate thing for you. What were some of the things that you did to really find out what worked for your audience? Well, we know we have the youngest beta reader in history, right? We know that part, but what are some of the other things that you did?
Um, Actually, even okay, so before I actually published a book as well, I used to host a workshop once a month at the Tunapuna Library. And I even had Miss Mary Coffey, as you know, who has written several books, and I know you edited her books. She also came as a guest, and she shared some writing tips as well, writing for children. And so again, that's doing research. That's, hey, this is someone who's done it before, who is doing well. Let me see what I could actually learn from her. So and as you think too, as a writer, you have to be open. You have to read other books as well. And I did buy a few copies of her books as well, because her books are quite good. And again, just observing other local authors, learning from them, um, being open, reading a lot. And like you said, attaching yourself to your community and asking questions. If you're not sure about something, asking questions to see, what, again, what could work, what cannot work. Should I try something else? Should I try a different approach? All these things. And again, it's good to link up with other authors. Being a part of poetry and prose as well gave me the confidence to actually go out there and actually read my pieces, because from time to time we would go out and have public readings and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right. So again, community helps, and they help connect you with other people who could actually, help you take your writing one step further.
And I really love that you mentioned the research part of it, because it's something that Shelley and I had part one of a publishing course recently. And we really mentioned to authors, irrespective of the genre of writing you choose, you should definitely do research. There's nothing wrong with like purchasing other books, or even like going to bookstores, looking through the shelves, looking at the graphics, the editing, because all that's part of the process. Because while we love writing and while it's such a passion for us, once they publish, it's turned into the business side of it. So it's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with like looking at the trends and seeing what works. Because the last thing you'd want to do is invest your life into a project and then you're not really sure how it interplays in the real. So I think research is a really integral part of publishing. And so that was a really great point to know.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to say something?
Oh no, I was gonna ask, it's related to the follow-on question. I remember Miranda, you said early on, it has been quite a journey. The whole publishing and the process of being published and being an author. And I hesitated because I figured that was the next question Keeron was asking about. Well, was I right? Was that the next thing you were heading to?
Well, one of them.
One of them. Yeah, because I'm very curious about that whole, author journey, because it's like when you're on this side of manuscript, it's very different from when you're on this side author. Just as Keeron said, things change. So yes, you're still a writer, but now you're a published author and there's some other things that you have to think about. So, tell us a little bit about that journey, since it seems that you've had quite a bit of stuff happening.
Yeah, again, people reach out and say, could you come and read? I've done several school visits, and that has been very exciting to me because the children just absolutely love the honey song. So again, yeah, now that I have a different hat now because I'm now an author, you have to be more open to people, someone coming up to you and say, hey, did you write this book, Breeze of Hope? And I love hearing your book. I mean, I get reviews all the time. People send me write me a review and said, this touched them. Glad, I'm happy you wrote this book. I was able to identify with the book. So again, I think being an author now, there's more meaning in your life, at least for me. I'm talking from my
Right.
perspective. There's
Yes.
more
Yes.
Right.
meaning to my life because I actually feel like I put a message out there and there are people who can identify with this message
Yeah.
and there are
It
people who are
resonates.
actually being
Yeah.
helped by this message.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's the cherry on top of the cake for me, knowing that my writing has actually made a difference in the life of someone and it's actually
Mhm.
touched someone in such a way that, hey, Rhonda, you've brought some kind of purpose in my life. You actually given me motivation to try something new and those are things that are uplifting as an author. And again, I know Shelley had mentioned about, yeah, time to write the third book, but I will not do that unless I'm really, really comfortable in that space saying, yes, it's time to launch a third book. Again, not because you're an author means you should be under pressure to run and publish another book. I feel you have to really feel comfortable in your space and in your skin to say, okay, I'm ready to launch that third book.
Right. Right. And I know you mentioned, which I found really interesting, you're an addiction counselor. So how does that interplay in your writing? Do you try to keep them separate or do you, because you just mentioned something really wonderful, you feel like you get to touch and bless people through your writing. So do you feel like
Mhm.
that's part of the counselor that comes into play?
Right. So again, it's not just addiction I specialize in. I also work with women and children who've
Right,
experienced severe trauma.
right,
Again, I started through my work. Once a week, I will host a workshop for poetry. And
right.
it's because part of my work, we believe that journaling helps. It's very therapeutic, it's very cathartic. And this
Definitely.
is where now I could actually wear my hat as a poet, sorry, and feel comfortable with my clients sharing not just my work, but the work of other authors. I think I had mentioned to you one session I had your book on
Right,
showcase
you
that we
did.
looked at
Yeah,
the poetry and they
yeah,
critiqued
that was
it and
special.
yeah, and they
Yeah,
actually loved your work because again, it's a local author. They can identify with what you're talking about in the book, right? Which is so interesting. So here am I kind of opening up their minds as well. Here is a piece of work probably written by Keeron or Maya Angelou, Sylvia Plath, other writers who they may have never heard from before and
right.
they can now read and get inspiration and motivation because I'm not going to lie, the times that we are living in now, it is really, really stressful. People are experiencing a lot of problems, more so with the pandemic, right?
Yeah,
And knowing that they could read a piece of work that provides some kind of motivation and gives meaning to their lives, you can't put a price tag on that. You cannot put a
Mm.
price tag on that. And we will write these clients will come, just give them a writing prompt and they would write. Um, I've heard some really love deep pieces and they would come and say to me at the end of their therapy, Miranda, writing this poetry has really helped. It's really helped me
yeah.
in one way or the other. And of course, open their minds to other local writers who are out there as well.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I would say I totally agree, especially being a writer myself. Like when you publish, sometimes there's a lot of stress behind it with like the business aspect. Like
Mm-hmm.
when somebody can just come up to you and tell you about a piece to connect to and how it touched them and what is encapsulated for them, you're kind of taken aback and you're like, this is why I do what I do. This is why I
Mm,
did
Yeah.
this. And it's just, as you said, you can't put a price tag on that. Because I had one experience like that and I was like speechless for the first time in my life because I thought a lot. And I was so speechless, and it was one of the most memorable interactions I had with a reader, and I'll always remember it. So I really love that you mentioned that because it shows the beauty of writing something that is personal to you and then it connects to somebody else. Like
mm-hmm.
again, you can't put a price tag on. I really like.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
I think this is why we all do what we do because this is one of the reasons Kieran and I decided, hey, we have to do this because there are so many people who they feel stuck, they feel like, publishing in Trinidad and Tobago, especially self-publishing, is so
Mm-hmm.
hard, or they feel like the traditional publishing is out of their reach, so therefore they can't get their books out there and so on. So there's always a way, but as we've been talking, you really can't do it on your own. And that's not a
Exactly.
bad thing. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a bad thing to say, well, hey, you know, join a community, This is what, I mean, in business, we talk about networking all the time. In regular everyday life, we talk about family and friends, you know, so that we are human beings, are social, we are part of communities. And so this is no different. Writing, get yourself in a community and really start, you know, getting the support that you need to get your voice out there. And I wanted to ask in terms of, now we've spoken quite a lot about what, you know, several different things that, you know, new and upcoming authors can do. Is there anything else you wanted to add? Anything that, okay, based on your journey, you realize, hey, this is something that I did not know in the beginning. I wish I knew, you know, is there any such advice that you wanted to share with new and upcoming authors?
Um, if you are self-published, be prepared to do the work, most over the marketing side of it, because no bookseller is going to push your book for you. You have to do it. So if you put your book in a particular store, you don't expect them to market your books. You have to keep constantly putting your book out there. I find for me, every time I go and read somewhere, a book gets sold because people will come after and say, hey, I want to get your book. And it was so, the last place that I read, which was at SDA, the Fine Arts School in Davide, which was so funny. I went there with my last set of books and all just went. And I was so sorry, I didn't have any more. So I had to do another reprint, you know? So yeah, so you have to be prepared to do the work to market the book, especially if it's self-published. If it's traditional, I mean, they do the work for you, but if you're self-published, you have to be prepared to do that work on the marketing side of your book.
And then, but the marketing side is not something that is really tedious, because based on what both of you are saying, this is something that would present you with some of the most rewarding experiences when you get to meet with the readers and meet with the audience. Kind of, you know, you get that interaction that really tells you, hey, what you're doing is important. We appreciate your work, and you know, you basically you need to continue.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So, oh, is Keeron frozen? I think so. I suppose, yeah, he's getting some trouble with his internet. But we're coming up to well, I guess while we're waiting on Keeron, and you mentioned you know, reading and so on. I know this is probably kind of putting you on the spot. Do you have a copy of your book? Is there any of the pieces that you'd like to share?
Actually, I could probably share a piece. It's called Your Love. So I could probably just share it with you as I'm here.
Yes, that would be awesome. I know this was not the original part of the original plan,
Yes.
but I think it's poetry. So that's all we need to say. We just
Okay. All right. So this piece is entitled Your Love. Give me your love, give me your time. I long to be near you in every word and every rhyme. Without you, I'm hidden, a bud yearning to blossom, bursting for sunlight, to dance in its brilliant rays. Your arms are my moon, while your gaze makes me feel secure. I'm catching dreams with you by my side. That much I know for sure. So give me a love always, as long as I'm alive. I will definitely make you proud. We will have no reason to hide.
Wow, that is beautiful. Yay! Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Keeron, I'm sorry you missed that. Yeah,
I
you
got
missed
a little
that.
bit of it. Yeah, my internet. Yeah. So I got the end. So what I got was beautiful, and I would rewatch the rest.
Yeah.
And again, Keeron, I just want to put this out there. I really want us to do some kind of poetry reading somewhere public together. I would really love that because, I mean, again, I love your work. I think
Thank you.
you know, you
Thanks so much. Yeah, we definitely need to do something. Yeah. We spoke about it before and we get so busy. So
yes, I know. I know you're busy making umbrellas and puzzles, and I'm just like, wow.
yeah.
We'll keep up the good work.
Yeah. So,
Oh my goodness.
so did you already mention where people can purchase your book?
Oh, actually, no.
No, we're just coming down to the wrapping up. So the what's next, and then
Mhm.
where to find you and your book. Yeah.
Nice, wonderful.
Hmm.
All right, so yes, so you can probably tell us what's next for you, where we can find your book and all the social media handles.
I currently still need to put this. I have the activity book layout. It's just
Right.
just push forward, but I've been so swamped with work. That's why I didn't push it out as yet. But I really need to get that off the ground and running because I really wanted to do this activity book for the children's book, which is Bobby and the Beehive. Um, I was actually invited to come and read abroad. I haven't. That's another thing I have to make time to go and do, which kind of caught me by surprise by a bookshop in foreign. So hopefully I'll be making that trip soon. And you can get my books at Scribbles and Quills in Shogunas, as well as Once Upon a Book, which is an online bookstore. I do believe in having my books any and everywhere because, again, remember you have to monitor, you have to be in touch with these bookstores all the time. So I kind of have it in bookshops where I know the books will be sold.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
previously at Metropolitan Book Supplies, and all the books were sold out there. So I probably have to do a restock there. But currently, right now, it's just in Scribble and Quills and Once Upon a Book, which is an online bookstore. Oh,
Okay.
and I have it
Okay.
also online.
Hmm.
It's on my friend's website, www.quincivitive.com.
Quincivitive. All
Mhm.
right. So we'll put all the links when we
Okay.
share the interview. We would put all the links. Make sure everybody can find you, find your books, because these are not just words. And the two things that were repeated throughout the entire interview is that, when you're presenting who you are and you're being authentic with your voice, that is really what people connect with because it's
Mhm.
like a human to human connection.
Yes.
And I found that to be a really powerful. To me, that is like the number one advice that authors need to hear, especially new authors, because one of those lies that we tell ourselves is, nobody wants to read what I have to say because it's just me. I'm just
Mhm.
this one person. But your experiences and your voice is important, and it can, really connect and uplift and support and motivate someone else. Just your voice, because it is your voice. And that's something that I feel like, new authors really need to hear that. And the other thing that you mentioned there, what you were saying about while you believe that your book needs to be out there, you do have to monitor
Mhm.
the situation. So then you're putting your book in places where it's being sold.
Mhm.
So once that's happening, you're monitoring stock and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So it's not that it's in any and every bookstore. You're also kind of strategic on where it is and um how the public has accessed it. You want it to be accessible, but at the same time, as a self-published author, this is something that you do have to monitor.
Exactly.
Yeah, where the
Exactly.
energy goes kind of thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. All right. So I think I am not sure what's happening with Keeron's internet, but he's in and out. So, but I think we are at the time in the interview when I really have to say thank you. And thank you so much. I know I put you on the spot with sharing a piece. And I appreciate the fact that you rolled with it and you
Mhm.
shared that because that just gives, our listeners and viewers that little tidbit that says, hey, you need to get this book.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me, Miss Barron. I really appreciate it.
It's wonderful. And I appreciate that you agreed to, I know part of self-publishing and, the marketing and so on is getting out there, but
Mhm.
do you ever get tired of like the interviews and, having to do all of these things all the time?
Um, You see, the thing is, I enjoy writing and I know it's part of it. So I don't see it as
Uh,
a chore and, oh gosh, that again, no, because I actually really enjoy. And again, it's nice when I can read a story to a group of kids and you just see the joy in their faces. I mean, I just absolutely love that. I I'm in my element, to be honest. You know, when they show interest and they ask
Nice.
all these questions, I really, really
Yeah.
enjoy. I really do enjoy reading to children and reading in public. It's just part of it. It's part of
That is
writing.
absolute. So then we could, once Keeron is back in, we could wrap up. And I think
Mhm.
that is a
I'm
beautiful note to end on. Yeah, that's we were just discussing, we sort of, went back to that idea of, self-publishing. These are things that you do. Is it tedious? And no, it's not. It's part of what you have to do. And it's the point where you get to connect and
Mhm.
really enjoy that connection with the audience. So yeah, I think that's a perfect place to end off. So Keeron, I would leave the last words to you.
Yes, I just want to say thanks to Miranda for joining us. It was really special to have you. And I hope that everybody get your books and follow you on all your socials. I hope that we get to do that live reading.
Of course.
All right,
Ab-
awesome, awesome. So guys, look for all the links in the chat, in the comments when we share the videos. Please reach out if you're an author and you would like to be on interviews with authors with Word Coach Creative. Please feel free to reach out. We're always looking for new and emerging authors to share their writing, tell Trinidad and Tobago and the world we're online now, so everybody gets to see what you have, and share your voice with them. So thank you for tuning in, and if you're looking at the replay or the recording, thank you so much for that, for taking your time out. So see you in the next author interview. All right, bye everybody.